Okay, October 21st, visit of the Magi and the flight into Egypt. That's where we're heading today. And today we begin looking at the young years of Christ. So the rite of purification takes place 40 days after Jesus' birth, and ordinarily it would have required the offering of a yearling lamb and a pigeon. However, the law permits poor parents, such as Joseph and Mary, are to offer a second pigeon or dove instead of the lamb, which they can't afford. Thus, even by his parents' offering of purification, it can be seen that Jesus comes humbly into this world. Despite these lowly beginnings, news of Jesus' birth spreads quickly throughout Judah and even beyond its borders. Matthew records the account of the visit of the Bethlehem by certain philosopher priests who, interestingly enough, may even be Zoroastrians from Persia. Their presumed contact with the Jews of dispersion has undoubtedly made them familiar with the Jewish Messiah prophecy. The Magi are prompted to travel the great distance to Jerusalem because of a star which appeared at the time of Jesus' birth. It is not known how many make this journey. Certainly, no compelling evidence exists for the tradition of three, but apparently they arrive some 6 months after Jesus' birth and inquire as to the child's whereabouts.
By this time, Joseph and Mary have found accommodations in the house, and it is in this house that the Magi's gifts are offered to the newborn King of the Jews. King Herod is alarmed by the Magi's visit because he believes Jesus' birth poses a political threat to his reign. Because of this, Herod sends his soldiers to Bethlehem to kill all male children who might have been born within the time frame suggested by the Magi's calculations. By Jewish reckoning, any child over 12 months is considered 2 years old. Since apparently 6 months have passed following Jesus' birth, Herod makes his order broad enough to prevent any mistake by including all of the estimated 40 to 50 baby boys in Bethlehem who would be up to 12 or 13 months old at this time. As will be seen, however, Joseph will be warned about the slaughter and will quickly depart for Egypt, where he and Mary and the child Jesus will stay until after Herod's own death. You are in Matthew 2, verse 1 through 8. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where's the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written.
But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then King Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I may go to and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went out on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When they had gone, and the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child and kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under. In accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi, Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more. After their brief stay in Egypt, Joseph and Mary returned to their home in Nazareth of Galilee, where Joseph resumes his trade as a carpenter. Over the next 10 years, Jesus continues to grow physically, mentally, and spiritually. There is no further record of Jesus until the age of 12. He is taken to Jerusalem for the Passover celebration. At age 12, Jesus has reached the point at which a Jewish boy is soon to become a son of the law, which law he is expected to learn and obey. But Jesus' understanding of the law is far greater than that of any other boy his age. After the Passover celebration is completed, Jesus' parents lose track of his whereabouts until they discover him in a profound conversation with the learned rabbis. When his parents express their concern about his leaving them, Jesus gives a response which indicates that even now he is aware of the divine sonship and the role as the Messiah.
After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went to live in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled that was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. And the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, they went up to the festival according to custom. After the festival was over, while his parents were returning home, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were unaware of it. Thinking that he was in their company, they traveled on for a day. Then they began looking for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they went back to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." "Why were you searching for me?" he asked. "Didn't you know I had to be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he was saying to him. Then he went down to Nazareth with them, and was obedient to them. But his mother treasured all these things in her heart, and Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Little more is known of Jesus' first 30 years. It is known that Jesus has at least four brothers: James, Joseph, Judas, or Jude, we know as the author, and Simon, and also some sisters who are not named. Because there is no further reference to Joseph, it appears that he probably died while Jesus was still a relatively young man. The support of his mother and younger brothers and sisters, therefore, would naturally fall upon Jesus as the firstborn. For many years, then, Jesus evidently has provided for his family by working as a carpenter, having learned the trade from his father. Now, at about the age of 30, the Jewish age of spiritual leadership, Jesus turns from the work of supporting his earthly family to the task of spiritually feeding the whole family of man.
Anything pop out of the pages as you were reading?
How Todd was talking about earlier about how took 3 days for them to find Jesus. Heard this before. It's just like Joseph and Mary were like, God, we lost the Messiah. can you give us another one? Just how it was so, it's odd to us that, like he would just be sitting in the talking to all the rabbis and having like intimate and like good conversations with them, so.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember exactly why or how the teacher came to this or instructor. I think it was. I'm trying to remember where I first heard it with. I think it was Dave Johnson at Church of the Open Door, who was teaching on this topic at one juncture, and the idea of caravanning and how caravanning worked, and in both in this segment we got kind of the caravan of the Magi as they were coming, and that group might have been as small a number as 30 and as many as 300. That there may have been real reason to believe that there was, because of the wealth that they possessed and the kind of leadership that they would have held, that they may have had, armed guard and, accompaniment and soldiers to, keep watch over their wealth and their possessions, as well as servants. And, there could have been quite a large number. Similarly, when Mary and Joseph are traveling, they're probably traveling in caravan with family and friends and people that they know, and it might not be uncommon at all for someone to have been cared for by a cousin or an uncle or a friend of the family, and I kind of can empathize with how having a child lost underfoot, when you kind of have the assumption that, well, they're probably with, Aunt Betty, or they're with they're with somebody. They certainly didn't just decide to hang out in Jerusalem as we all left. That couldn't be the story, and so I can imagine how it could have happened, that they could have gotten some distance down the road before they realized that Jesus was no longer underfoot. And where is he, and how did that happen? And then to kind of be backpedaling, and where, it's funny how around my house, it's like everything I find, it's always the last place I look. And it just strikes me as kind of funny that the last place they find him, the last place they look, was the temple. that they finally get back there, and there he is. And, other things that you saw in the text.
Go ahead, Dustin.
No, go ahead, Todd.
Well, just kind of building off what Cody was talking about, the fact that at his age, he's there, and it would appear that he was captivating these religious leaders.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like he was, because Mark, I think you had mentioned earlier too, there may have been a lot of young guys, or at least several young guys, Jesus' age, that would have been, hanging out, floating around the temple, for whatever reason. But this child in particular must have totally captivated them, that they would be in deep conversation. It wasn't like, what's this kid all about? It says they were deep conversation with him, right?
Right.
That would have been fun to see.
So Dustin, Cody, and I to that point we're doing youth ministry tonight, and we have I don't know, a dozen volunteers that kind of help us with that, and there'll be some number of kids, teenagers that show up. Some of them just maybe a little bit older than Jesus. I've never once been captivated by a conversation. I just can't. It's like all these hanger arounders. No, that's not true. There's been a few that have been pretty captivating, but I can't imagine, kind of having somebody like Jesus, kind of like, who just, blows you away. That's just like, oh my gosh, this is the smartest little kid I've ever seen. This kid actually knows the scriptures as well as I do. This is really remarkable. Hey, come back tomorrow. I want to talk more with you about this tomorrow. That's the kind of energy that I sense from the text, like the rabbis going, I really want, show back up here. We're going to be reading tomorrow out of Ezekiel, and I really want you to be here. I can't even hardly imagine what that would be like and that's kind of the sense that I get. Like, they're really amazed by what this kid knows, and they want him around, and for the they want him around for the purpose of study. I think that's pretty remarkable. Free range parenting. That's how we all should know. That's how that was done back then, maybe. Anything else you can observe from there?
Well, it's not necessarily directly from reading the text today, but I went to the planetarium last winter around Christmas time to watch a video on the Christmas star. or a presentation, and it was actually extremely interesting. The Magi were likely astrologists, and they watched the movement of the planets and the stars. And of course, they didn't at the time know that they were watching the movement of planets. They thought everything was a star. And the sign, the star that they would have seen or could have possibly seen, was actually the planet Jupiter going through and intersecting with the constellation of Pisces, which Pisces they equated with the Jews.
Huh.
And the intersection of the planet Jupiter with the constellation of Pisces was the sign of, royalty being born. And it's a convergence that would have actually taken place, I think, twice that year. The first time in March and the second time in September. And when they saw it the second time, they took off for Jerusalem. And it kind of fits with the whole, they don't exactly know where to go. They end up talking to Herod and keying him in on this. And Herod has absolutely no clue what star they're talking about or any of that. And there was likely astrologers working for him as well, and they didn't see it. So that's why he has to find out when the star appeared from them. And ultimately, so if they took off in September, it would have taken approximately 3 months for them to travel in their caravan and reach Bethlehem.
Yeah.
So that would have put them in Bethlehem in December.
I really appreciate your bringing that up to the forefront. And, one of the interesting parts about that I remember when I first went to Bible college, I had a professor named Dr. Kramer who would say, don't listen, students, don't get your theology from Hollywood or Hallmark, because the Hallmark card, that's not how it looks to me in the home. I mean, it looks like there's some star that kind of rests over a little shepherd's, cabin. It's like, that's maybe not how it happened, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was not likely to be the star that we generally have, at the top of our nativity scenes.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to do about my Christmas tree this year? I have to get a different symbol, I guess. Oh man, it's ruining everything. This Bible wrecks all my cultural distinctives to do it all different. No, but that's great though. I mean, I do appreciate that insight. And I remember hearing something about that as well, but I'd love to have gone and seen that with you. I don't know, is that something that's annual, or was that just a one-off?
I didn't have any clue, but I had the privilege of working with two of the daughters of the guy that runs the planetarium, and I was talking to one of them about that this summer, and she kind of rolled her eyes and went, "Oh, I've seen that so many times." So I'm really hoping it's an annual thing, so I can go and see it again this year and catch on anything I might have missed.
Hey, if that happens, you let us know I mean, I bet there's a bunch of us that would probably want to make a trip down there and go check that out together. I bet that.
Yeah, Mark, sorry to interrupt, but in the past they've run it through community ed, and they've done it as an evening, a few series, a few showings of that right around Christmas is when they've done it. So we'll kind of stay in tune for that. I don't know whether they're doing them now because of COVID or not, but yeah, it's a really cool show.
That could be a fun Bible morning Bible study field trip. Maybe we need a field trip. Herod died, it says in the text here, and the angel appeared to Joseph in a dream. Herod was a really, really evil guy. I mean, I don't know if you have done any study about Herod, but he was really a corrupted person. There was a bunch of his kids that he had suspected were vying for his throne that he had put to death, and and he had lots of people around him put to death, and put to death in some pretty bad ways. And you know, it's kind of an unseemly thing. But when he was coming to the end of his life, he probably died of syphilis. But when he came to the end of his life, he had ordered that they gather up some of the leading rabbis and religious leaders and political leaders in and around Jerusalem. And he had 300 of them put to death on the day that he died by order of edict, so that there would be weeping and mourning in Jerusalem. You know, so he put to death all these babies. He put to death religious leaders. He put to death those he thought were vying for his throne. Really, really just a horrible guy. And so when he went, there was weeping, but it wasn't weeping for the loss of his life. And then the remaining siblings, Philip, Archelaus, the different, there was a daughter who wound up with a little tiny piece of property with her and her husband to kind of overrule. But a number of them went to Rome to say, hey, we should have the throne my father had. And Rome divided the kingdom into parts and gave different parts to the different sons, and a little part to one daughter as well, and said, you know, you guys manage it, and you take this and you take that and you take that. And Philip had that northern part. Herod Archelaus, he had that center region of where Jerusalem is. So it says when Joseph got up and they're coming into that area, he took the child and the mother and he went to the land of Israel. But he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judah in the place of his father Herod. So Archelaus, the son, had a little bit of property there. But we'll study more about the Herods as we go through some of the text. And it's interesting how Jesus uses their family divisive relationship to his advantage, as well as how he really feels about this great and mighty fearful king. So King Herod, the tetrarch, the quarter king. Tetrarch means quarter king when you read it in the Bible. So the kingdom was divided into quarters, and he has some thoughts about Herod Archelaus, the quarter king. So, all right, let's look at a couple questions today. What are some various presents that we might give to Christ? And I think the idea is the Magi brought myrrh and incense and gold. How might we present gifts to a king in our day? What does it mean to be bringing something of value or worth?
You know, it's interesting, Mark, that if I remember right, the gifts that they brought, because they believed they were going to a king, and so they wanted to bring the things that they felt were of high value, right? I mean, rare spices and gold, and what could we possibly give that would have any kind of meaning? And of course, in our faith, I guess the answer would be, well, if we bring him our heart, would that be a worthy gift? If we bring him our lives, if we dedicate our lives to him, is that a worthy gift to the king? Look at the gift that he gave us. It's really kind of interesting how, and I've been to, you've heard about these reverse birthday presents, where you come to my birthday party, but I'm giving you guys the gifts.
Yeah.
Kind of intriguing that, Jesus did the same. Come to my party, but I'm giving you the ultimate gift.
That's great. And I was thinking, to add to that, Todd, the gifts that we bring to present to royalty, and thinking back to, a time when this would have been a regular thing, what you're saying by bringing these gifts and presenting them to the king is to say that me having your favor is more valuable than the gifts that I'm giving you. So to bring things to Jesus and to present these things, like our heart, you know, here, control my heart because your favor is more valuable than my own control, my own heart, having my own heart in my life.
How does it feel to have a rival? And in this case, we see a number of different rivals kind of emerge onto the pages of Scripture. You've got, uh, you know, Jesus with, a king that's emerging in a kingdom that's run by a psychopath, and so you've got Herod, who has this strong sense of insecurity that is just kind of emerged and is bleeding out all over the place. And as a result, you've got, bloodshed in the land because of his insecurity. You have, after he dies, you've got Antipas and Archelaus and Philip that are all somewhat rivals for the land where they are managing the bulk of what was Herod's kingdom, and some rivalries that emerge there. And when we look at kind of our lives being led, when we feel like we're maybe being overlooked or we're being replaced, what do you think the best response for rivals or opponents? How can we live this out in a way that's not riddled with insecurity?
You kind of hit on it there, Mark, when you use the word riddled with insecurity. I think insecurity comes to the surface, real quickly.
No.
And, a mature response would be to say, okay, well then I need to step up my game. Maybe I've slid. Maybe I'm not doing all that I could do. And so to look at it and say, no, I got to get better at what I'm doing. I'd like to think that would be my response, but I don't know that it would be. I have a feeling that it might be more along the line. I don't think I would kill the rival, but I think I would definitely have the, kind of that insecurity that goes along with it. But wouldn't it be great if the real response is, you know what, I'm just going to do the best I can. If there are areas that I need to improve, then I'm going to work on them. And if by chance this rival is a better fit, then really my response ought to be, I'm going to do the best I can to help you achieve what needs to happen. But that's a tough posture to get to, I think.
Don't you think in some ways, cultures in general, our culture as well, it just makes we don't really teach how to want the best for someone else as much as we teach wanting to just decimate the enemy, whether that's sports or a chess match or, a job or whatever it is. It's like, it's not that we want the mutual best. We want someone to suffer,
Absolutely.
I was playing Monopoly with my son Gabe the other night, and I'd get a chance card. And he's like, I hope it's a bad card. It's like, I got to work on teaching him, man, we want everybody to do well, and we want you to do so well that you win. I want to do so well that I win, but I want everybody to do well. I mean, what's that? What does it mean to train into that spirit? Rather than I want somebody to do bad in order to win.
And I wonder, Mark, where that comes from, because I think you're right. I think our culture, the idea, I think we've lost sight of what competition really. I like the way you put that. The idea of competing. The better I do, maybe the better you end up doing, because you're driven to want to improve.
Yeah.
Not to beat me down.
I mean, wouldn't it be different if that sort of an attitude, kind of I'm going to seek to do my best, but I really humbly want you to do well as we, strive towards whatever it is that we're aiming at. And, what would that look like in the church world if churches lived that way? If I really want, the Timberwoods and the Lakewoods and the Heritages and First Baptist, I want them all to do really, really, really well. I want to support them all in their ministry. I want to make sure that all of them are succeeding to the best of my ability. And I really want to do well. I want our church to thrive. I want us to I want us to be the most effective. And if they're really effective, I want that to be true too, you know, and that I don't need to have a spirit of, boy, I want them not to do well in order for us to look better. And I think in the church, I say that about the churches, I think that our natural reaction is, well, obviously, that's obviously true. And yet I know that a lot of us are watching right now in politics, and we're hoping against, rather than saying, man, I want all of these politicians to do well, and I want the politicians that I like to do even better. I want them to win, but I want all of them to win because I want all of us to win. You know, I mean, what if we had a different kind of a posture towards the governance of our towns and our cities and our countries? And, you know, not to say that I don't want my agenda, I just want all of the good agenda, you know. And it's so funny that we have this pious posture that we have to be against something in order to demonstrate our for something. Like I'm against home churches because I like attractional churches, or I'm against Calvinism because I'm for Arminianism, or I'm against reading the Bible and teaching the Bible this way because I'm for reading the Bible and teaching the Bible that way. And, you know, it's this kind of a permeation of our culture that we have to be against something in order to demonstrate our for something. I think it's really a problem. It'd be great if we could just be for things and put our heads down and work hard at the thing we're most for, without being against what other people are for, particularly the good things that they're for. You know, I love that.
That's a lot of it.
I think that's awesome. Anything about thwarting God's plan that you want to talk about?
Nope.
It never works.
It never works. Even if you try. If you tried to do it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, there is something there about, you know, he's able to work in and amongst and through just incredible obstacles that we've put up over the years. And I think that there's a advantage when you can step back and see the time outside of time, when you see the line outside of time, to say, okay, they're going to do these things, and here's how I'm going to interject myself through history and how it's going to play out. It's amazing how look who I found. It's amazing how we try to sometimes do our own agenda. Good morning, gang. Hi, everybody. This is Mimi.
Good morning, Mimi.
Puppy. Mimi's my new doggy. All right, Todd, pray us out that we actually develop this healthy sense of how to live this out well.
I sure will. Father God, thank you so much for this time again. This time really of fellowship and the opportunity to build relationship even from a distance. Lord, I'm so grateful for the wisdom and the insights, Lord, for the humor and the genuine hearts that come through, whether it's in the chat or whether it's in the video discussion. Lord, I'm just so grateful. What a wonderful opportunity that we have, and I just thank you so much for that. And Lord, with us today, as we go forward, what a great lesson, this idea of working to build one another up rather than tear one another down, because we live in a time when tearing down seems to be the approach. And Father, help us to become that light where people would wonder, why is it that you're not participating in these discussions? Why is it that you're not pulling someone else down, but rather we're seeking to lift them up? So I pray that in all things today, as we go throughout our day, that we would find those opportunities when we could lift one another up in prayer, support however we can. Lord, I know that Joy has an MRI this afternoon, and I just pray your blessing on her too. Give her peace, give her comfort. And Lord, we just lift her up to you even now and ask for your blessings on her. But Lord, in all we do, help us to seek out opportunities to be supportive to others. And thank you so much that you've given us that ultimate model of forgiveness and grace and love through your Son, Jesus. Lord, bless this day. In his name, amen.
Amen. All right,
Amen.
You guys, make it a great rest of your day. Blessings on ya.
Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.